Israel has decided to attack Iran's nuclear facilities, and Turkish troops have entered Latakia. Why do the Palestinians need Russia? What will Iran get from the deal with Putin? And what events in the coming days will begin in the Middle East? This is Ilya Brizak. Let's discuss it. According to Al Arabiya, European officials have told Arab publications that Israel has decided to strike Iran's nuclear facilities after Donald Trump's official inauguration as U.S. president. A senior diplomat said Israel decided to launch the attack because of the latest developments in the Middle East. Nevertheless, according to their own words, the attack cannot be called inevitable. Several European countries have already started active talks with the new Trump administration to see if there is still a chance to use diplomacy or other tools to prevent Tehran from getting nuclear weapons. Also, the report said that the Trump administration is much more aggressive toward the Islamic Republic than the Democrats. Subscribe to my channel right now. I tell you about the latest news from around the world. In turn, the newly elected U.S. president said that a decision on Iran will be ready in February. Although Middle East experts are sure that all decisions have already been made, the only question is what they are. Israel has been ready to attack Iran's nuclear facilities for a long time. They only need the approval of the United States. But judging by the documents already signed, the American president is very determined. Trump has already canceled his decree blocking Biden's huge military aid to Israel. But still, according to analysts, the first steps will be to try to negotiate with Iran to stop developing nuclear weapons on America's terms, which Iran is unlikely to agree to. Since for Iran, more precisely for the Ayatollah's regime, by and large, the presence of nuclear weapons remains the only way for further survival, since if it does not have them, there is apparently nothing more to say. Iranian official and former Iranian Vice President Hossein Marashi openly admitted the defeat of the Iranian Axis in the confrontation with Israel. A quote, "We have lost Lebanon, we have lost Syria, we have lost Iraq, and we can no longer count on Russia. The Houthis are under intense pressure, they can no longer be relied upon. Iran is back to the situation of 1988, end quote. It is difficult to say on what account this politician is now. Nevertheless, he voices quite real things. And that's why Iran is being as cautious as possible and is grabbing every opportunity. Just 3 days ago, Iran and Russia signed a 20-year comprehensive treaty, including economy and security. At a joint press conference with the Iranian president in Moscow, the Russian president said that the Kremlin acts in accordance with international law and in no way interferes in the internal affairs of other countries. Nevertheless, Russia will oppose any international sanctions directed against Iran and Russia. The meeting also touched upon the issue of nuclear energy. Moscow and Tehran are discussing the possibility of new nuclear power units in Iran. According to Putin, Russia and Iran have a huge project. One unit is already working successfully, and now they are discussing the possibility of building additional units. Putin also opened a $5 billion credit line for Iran. These funds will finance the construction of a railroad, a power plant, but most importantly, they will finance the realization of the second and third phases of the nuclear power plant in Bushehr. And how the U.S. looks at all this, we have yet to learn. Meanwhile, in Tehran, there was an attack right outside the Supreme Court building. In the Palace of Justice, an unknown assailant shot and killed 2 Supreme Court judges and wounded a security guard. Both judges, Ali Razini and Mohammad Mokasseh, died on the spot. It is known that they held their positions for 10 and 5 years respectively and were in charge of cases of activists and revolutionaries suspected of terrorism and espionage. After the attack, the shooter committed suicide. However, no further details from the investigation have yet been released. And today, 3 days later, the police do not have a clear understanding of the circumstances of the incident. The main version is an act of revenge by a man who either personally or his loved ones were affected by the judicial decisions of these 2 judges. Iranian authorities are treating the incident as a terrorist attack. Iranian leader Ali Khamenei gave special honor to both judges and yesterday delivered a mourning speech at their state funeral in the capital. Experts say the fact that Khamenei chose to bid them farewell in person emphasizes their importance. Journalists also noted that Khamenei was probably wearing a bulletproof vest under his clothes. At the same time, Iranian Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi announced his readiness to lead Iran's transitional government and said that the people of Iran are ready to take back their country. Again, it's hard to say how willing the Iranians are to do this, since most of Iran's sources are 100% controlled by the regime. And according to their information, the Iranians are all in favor of them. At the same time, The authoritative Times of Israel reports that Israel has lost a war for the first time. The source says that since 1948, Israel has always won victories. But that has changed today, and that the Doha Peace Accord was a clear victory for Hamas and a defeat for Israel. No wonder people in Gaza are celebrating. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has congratulated the Palestinians, which welcomes Hamas and other groups. The October 7 terrorist attack is called a heroic operation of historic significance in the congratulations. The IRGC writes that the Palestinians demonstrated amazing patience and won a clear victory over the Zionist regime backed by Western countries. The IRGC also notes that, in addition to the military defeat, Israel is on the verge of economic and social collapse and international isolation, and expresses confidence that the liberation of Jerusalem and the final victory over Israel will soon follow, the statement said. And Western media say it was Israel's US-backed military pressure on Hamas and other proxies of Iran that ultimately led to the agreement. As a result, the entire Middle East has been fundamentally transformed. According to Western experts, thanks to Israel, Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar and the entire top brass of Hezbollah are now dead, and its sponsors, including Iran, have been seriously weakened. Lebanon is now ruled by a pro-Western president. Israel will now be more integrated with its neighbors, including Saudi Arabia, and the Palestinians will be able to settle their future. Meanwhile, the UN says 92% of the buildings in Gaza are destroyed or damaged, and it's literally impossible to live in those homes. The UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs says 436,000 buildings in Gaza have been destroyed or damaged, 160,000 of which cannot be rebuilt. People literally have nowhere to live. The agency also reported that about 630 trucks with humanitarian aid arrived in Gaza on the first day of the ceasefire. Humanitarian aid is now arriving in Gaza every day. And what do you think about it? Write in the comments. And Hamas spokesman Sami Abu Zuhri said the group is hoping for Russian involvement in the post-war reconstruction of the Gaza Strip. Quote, "We hope that the Russian leadership will play an important role in the reconstruction process of Gaza and will not leave the territory in the care of Western parties." End quote. He said Russia's participation in the reconstruction of Gaza would create the necessary balance of power and prevent a Western monopoly. On January 15th, the Russian president's special representative for the Middle East and Africa held a telephone conversation with the deputy chairman of the Hamas Politburo. During the conversation, the Palestinians thanked Russia for ensuring the legitimate rights of the Palestinian people. In other words, they thanked Russia for providing weapons. Meanwhile, Turkish troops have entered northern Latakia and have begun preparations to establish a military base in the region. It is reported that the Turkish military entered through Kasab, passed through the Turkmen Mountains, and reached the Blaran Dam, which is 25 kilometers northeast of Latakia city. The footage shows the Turkish army in Latakia province, presumably in the village of Kastalmaf. The Turkish Ministry of National Defense has already said that it is conducting an operation to neutralize PKK terrorists in northern Iraq and Syria, and was giving RPK supporters the opportunity to surrender to the new Syrian authorities. Nevertheless, the Syrian Kurds intend to fight, and apparently not without the support of the United States. That's all the important news for now. Stay tuned. Write in the comments what you think about it. Boosty and Patreon for those who want to support the channel. See you.